All right. So we are live for our breakout 2 session in here. Attendees are popping in, and I'm going back in oblivion, hiding behind the trenches. And Melissa will take care from here.
Okay. Thank you, Nash. We'll wait for others to join. Give them a couple more seconds or minutes. We're at 2:12, so we're going to start at 2:15. So we'll give about 3 or 4 minutes or so. In the meantime, Darren, do you want to tell a funny joke? I like laughing, so I'm always interested.
Funny joke. I don't know good funny jokes.
Or a funny experience, something. Share.
Yeah. Put me on the spot here.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Let's see, funny joke. So I was driving to California. Didn't want to miss my morning stand-up, so I hurried up and pulled off the road to have my stand-up. And I quickly realized that Tennessee is in Central Time Zone. I was late for my meeting. A little bit of sharing, a little bit of not so much a joke. I also realized trying to manage time zones is very stressful. So anybody in Europe or having to do that rather within the US or across the world, I don't know why. I have like a time on my laptop, I have a time on my phone, and then this particular app that this event is on will adjust your times based on your time zone, so that I'm always questioning which time is the right time. But,
yeah, the time zone management is a bit difficult. I'm glad that, so in the software development realm, I'm glad that most software has now just defaulted to everyone's time zone. Before you had to like program it. And so now we don't have to program it anymore. We can just be like, oh.
Yep, trust it.
Yes.
You know what? I do have a joke.
Okay.
I can quickly tell you a joke. It's a dad joke, by the way, right? I'm famous for dad jokes. So here it goes. Why number 6 is afraid of number 7?
Because 7, 8, 9.
Because 7, 8, 9. You got it. You got it. You got it.
I knew something with 8 was going to happen, but I together as quickly as Melissa. Maybe Melissa should be doing the presentation, not me.
Well, she did awesome in laughing yoga, and I was, I'm always hiding behind the trenches, and I was laughing sitting here on the seat. Oh.
You know they bet me, Nash, if I could get you to laugh. So I won. I won.
Yes,
I did
yes, you won. Indeed, you won.
Make them pay.
All right.
All right. So it looks like we have a couple of attendees here. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to introduce Darren. Welcome, Darren. I will say before this event, I'm one of the non 7 billion people, 7 billion people that wasn't really familiar at that moment. I felt like I was left out. But it did give me some time to get to know you and to understand that you and I do have some things in common, which is vulnerability, right? And Brene Brown. And I appreciate that. And, I'm looking forward to hearing more of what you have to share with us today about, our agile lineage. And so we'll see what happens. Inspire us today. Thank you so much for being here, Darren.
Thank you for having me. All right. Share my screen here. Full view. All right, I think you guys should be seeing it. All right, so good afternoon, I think, for most of us. Thank you for having me and trusting me with the next 45 minutes of your life. So we're going to be talking today, the Agile Swami, what's your Agile lineage? And I know this has been talked about a little bit in the Agile community, but not a ton. I was sort of going back through Google and doing some research and finding out what's talks. I know Lisa Adkins has done a little bit around Agile lineage. We're going to do a little bit different of a twist today. It's not only understanding what your lineage is, who your immediate impact or influencers are, but also putting the control into your hands on what you can do about your lineage moving forward, and some things to bounce it off of to sort of understand what type of lineage do you want versus what type of lineage do you need for the job you're trying to do. So interesting conversation I had with my mother-in-law, who is not an Agilist. She's a bar and restaurant owner. And she said, well, why do I care? And to an entrepreneur where you're just trying to survive and make it through COVID, you probably don't care about things like lineage. But in leadership and trying to shape people and transform organizations, it could be much more impactful. So it definitely was an interesting conversation to challenge my thoughts on the matter. So, all right, my request of the group. I realize, we're virtual, but what I will say is I don't claim to have all the answers. I have some thoughts for sure, and my thoughts are shaped by my own story and experiences. Excuse me, sorry about that. And so what I ask for you is just to sit beside me, not across from me. Let's make this an interactive session. Questions, challenge, share, collaborate. There is no ego behind these slides. And I would really love to hear from others and their thoughts around this. My other request of this group is to pull out your phones, which is usually not what a presenter says, but we have a couple mentee questions that I'd like to play around with. And if you want to do that now, it's just mentee.com on your phone. And then the code is right there. It's 50, 29, 56, and 5. We'll come back to that. So if you didn't get that right away, no worries. But like I said, it's mentee, menti.com. All right. I got some screens up, so I'm just going to eliminate them real quick. All right. So this is sort of the way I think of it. To understand you must look back, look forward while staying grounded in today. And this just sort of rolled off my tongue a little bit. I'm sure there's somebody that this is rather resourcing as a quote, or someone much more intelligent than I am. But this is sort of what my basis of this talk today is let's dig in a little bit. Let's find out what has shaped you as a person, both from a personal and professional perspective. Let's figure out how we can shape the future. And I like to use the old, I don't know when you were a kid, but the old choose your own adventure books. I do believe you get to choose your own adventure in most cases. And then, like I said, with all that said, while still respecting and celebrating where you're at today. So hopefully we'll go on a little journey today to do this. And I look forward to hearing your guys' input. All right, so lineage, or learning lineage. So what is that? And I pulled this definition, the lineal descent of knowledge acquisition from a teacher to a student is one form of learning lineage, and probably the most formal. The more biological definition is a sequence of species, each of which is considered to have evolved from its predecessor. And so I looked at both these definitions, and I'll be honest with you, they didn't really sit super well with me, especially based on my talk today. And so I want to sort of combine the two. What we want to understand is your lineal descent of knowledge acquisition. And I'm going to eliminate the part that says from a teacher to a student, because I believe learning and knowledge comes from everywhere. It comes from your culture, your gender, your religious beliefs, your values, what school you went to, what side of the, rather the United States or where in the world you grew up. All of these are different lineages in my view, which then sort of pulls into the more biological definition, a sequence of species, each of which considered to have evolved from its predecessor. And so this made me sort of think of agile methodologies, agile practices. And so it's a little bit of a dangerous assumption to believe we're always evolving. And maybe when I hear the word evolve, I think of it evolving for a better, not a worse state. But really, it's how do we understand where did we acquire knowledge? how we have evolved to where we are at today. And then based on what we want to learn, how do we choose our teachers and mentors to evolve to that person we want to be, or areas in which we want to explore whether we want to be that or not. That was somewhat complicated, but hopefully you saw the twist on bringing these two together. And I don't know, chat or audio, anybody have any questions or comments? Any good pause?
We don't have any questions as of yet, but keep it going.
All right, perfect. All right, so let's try a mentee question. So we're gonna go to mentee.com. Got your phone out, right? Pretty quick, any browser. And you're gonna punch in this code. You saw it in the first slide, but 5029565. You see that in the enter code field here on your left. And then what I like to do, I'm going to switch from my PowerPoint deck over to Mentee real quick. So if you can sort of bear with me in the technology challenges that I have. Okay. A couple different ways to do this. So the question is, where did you get your first taste of Agile? And this could be formal, informal, meaning rather a certification class at a company. I'm showing the answers as you put them in. And I tested this before our this presentation, and my wife, who is the owner of our company, her comment was, my husband made me do it. So, oh, look, I got another one. Hubby, after he came back from an Agile DC conference. That's awesome. All right, what else? At a company, childhood. I'd love to learn more about that. Let me see if I can make this bigger so we can see them all. At work, subcontract on a government contract. Okay, I'm a fellow federal government contractor, so I get that. As a commercial driver navigating an 18-wheeler across the country. All right, some surprising but very cool answers here. So I'm super excited. And is there a way to let anybody want to talk further about their input here on Mentee?
I'm not sure if we
Make that
can.
happen? No? Okay, fair enough. I know that we had some limitations on that, so.
Yeah, but I can ask, and if people enter into the chat, I can then respond to Darren on your behalf.
Perfect. Thank you, Melissa. All right. So, and if anybody's interested, I'd love to hear it, but I understand, you know, it's easier to go through Mentee than it is to obviously jump into a discussion. So the big piece of this is we all started somewhere different. And I'll talk a little bit about my journey in a second, but like I said, super cool, you know, influenced by significant others, influenced because it was part of your job and you had to figure it out. It's being taught in schools, aka software engineering master's program. It's being figured out. And what I've learned with some of my, especially my federal clients on the business side is like an 18-wheeler across the country, like people are doing Agile, but maybe they don't know what's called Agile. And I'm not sure if that's the same for a commercial driver. So sorry if I put any words in your mouth there, but we're all figuring this stuff out, and sometimes Agile makes sense. I use it everywhere, both in my personal life. I got 3 daughters. A wife and I are in business together, and federal clients and private sector clients, and it's everywhere for me. It's sort of a new, I shouldn't say new anymore, but it has become a way of life for me in the last 15 or 20 years as I've evolved with this industry. So let me see if I can switch back here without messing anything up. Oops, not quite. Sorry about that. All right. So, who am I? Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I work for Plight Solutions. Founded it about 8 years ago when I couldn't quite find another company I wanted to work for. So I started my own, and then we've sort of grown. This is my whole imperfect self. I took a business phone call at the top of a ski lift yesterday. I sat at the Outer Banks writing proposals and having conversations with teaming partners. Like to travel. I'm fairly new to the East Coast. I've been here 8.5 years in the DC area. 6, and we'll talk a little bit more about that history or lineage before that. And then most recently, my current learning lineage is being influenced by some of the Dare to Lead work by Brene Brown, which you'll see here in the bottom left-hand corner. But really, one thing that sort of one of those books or content that really spoke to me around leadership as a teachable skill. What are those skills, and then how do you approach it and translate that to people who are struggling in management or positions of authority, aka trying to turn that into leadership. And then my wonderful family and dog sitting up there in the top left-hand corner. So yes, I do live with 4 other women, and every day is an adventure. All right, some other things. So this was a fun exercise. I'm going to share with you what it's done for me, but also I would encourage you to sort of build your own PowerPoint slide of all the books that have influenced you and how you show up. And this just gets you a little taste of who my influencers are, how it affects my approach, but also just, the spectrum of information in which I'm pulling from when I speak to some of these things. So obviously the Dare to Lead work on the left side here, Coaching Agile Teams, which is Lisa Adkins, who spoke earlier in the conference. The 4 Agreements was a book I picked up quite a while ago. I haven't read it in a while, but it was interesting. I saw an article yesterday, Tom Brady, the quarterback, Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl champions. He says he reads this book once or twice a year, over and over again as part of his mantra. So I thought it was just interesting, whether you're a Tom Brady fan or not, that these books show up in different realms, different fields of expertise, even professional sports. And then I'm pretty influenced by the Cantor model, which was introduced to me by Marcia Acker, who spoke earlier in the conference also, sort of the 4-player communication model. And then really in the mindfulness space, both from a personal development perspective, but also from a parenting perspective. So for any of those with children on the call, the Whole Brain Child book is pretty influential. It spoke to me, and it's amazing if you don't have children reading this, and this isn't a disrespectful statement, but the things you learn with your children or in its ultimately human interaction, like everything I learned in that book, like applies to any of the teams I work with. And sort of how do you nurture their development, their growth mindset, the culture of learning within groups. And so the Whole Brain Child, not an Agile book, but you can pull from there as well. Also, Agile Coaching Institute, like I said, Lisa had spoken earlier, certified Lego Serious Play. The whole concept around Lego Serious Play is the hand bone's connected to the brain bone. So bringing activity to the learning process, which is a great insight, and lots of tools in there. And then the Keegan Leahy work and Spiral Dynamics are 2 on more philosophical coaching approaches and approaches to change. So this is not only just me sharing something about myself, but also something I challenge you to do is, as you look through your library, whether it's virtual or physical, sitting behind you or sitting on your phone, sort of look at what things have influenced you and start pulling those things together to start understanding how you are constructed based on these influences you've consumed or knowledge you've consumed from multiple sources. So like I said, this is sort of a dual purpose slide here today.
Can I interject here really
Please.
quickly?
Yes.
So I just wanted to share with you. You can't really see it. I have in my hand, I have Daring Greatly. Right. So this is the next book that I'll be reading. So I'm so happy to see that on your list.
Beautiful.
I have a quick question. Have you read The Seat of Their Soul?
I have not.
Ah, that may be another one I think you would enjoy.
All right, I'll have to put it on my list. Yeah, and I'll just say there's a ton of information out there. And I've read more than what's here, or mostly listened to what's more than here. Now that COVID is here, my commute has gone to zero, and my Audible account has gone very inactive. But I'm trying to change that. But I've chosen books or content that's really spoken to me. There's a ton of other stuff that I've consumed or resourced or whatnot, but these are the things that I've really it's really sat with me. And I'm like, I don't know if you've ever read something or heard someone speak and you thought they were speaking directly to you. And so that's where this content has really been pulled from. For me personal, it's sort of like my, academia DNA of influencers. And if these are usually my go-tos, if I'm looking for something or inspiration, or I'm looking to reread something just because I'm in a rut or on a plateau of improvement. So, but no, Melissa, I'd love to throw it in the chat, or we can talk afterwards. But
Sure.
all right. So what else has shaped me? And I just did a little bit. This was sort of a last minute slide that I put together. And I just thought it'd be interesting. I originally grew up in Southern California, migrated to Northern California, lived in Boise, Idaho, and now I live in DC. Most people shake their head at me and say, "Why'd you go east? You're supposed to go west." And I'll just say life happened. We had some family out here who we knew. We thought we'd give Virginia a try, and we really like it, and so we haven't left. But I still have family on the West Coast. This is only relevant, not because you need to know my life story, but maybe you sort of do. Growing up on the West Coast is much a very different culture. I had the privilege of living in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley for a while, which, being in IT is super impactful, very progressive. So it's sort of my first taste of Agile without the terms and certifications behind it. And then progressed over to Idaho, very conservative environment, but then we ran into Affordable Care Act, and the state of Idaho started implementing that full Scrum shop, both a political change to the way Idaho handles insurance, but also a shift in how they deliver products to their customers and how they provide services to their citizens. So a very interesting dynamic. And then working in the federal space, my first time in DC, outside of ACA, with FEMA, USCIS, currently at the Securities Exchange Commission. And then we have a pretty big contract over at FEMA with the grant modernization program. So none of this makes me cool or special, but what it does is just give you a taste of some of the diversity or what has shaped me and my story as I've gone along through my career and my progression. And I put some business relationships at the bottom, and I put some certification bodies on the right side just to give you an idea. And when I first got to DC, I got to meet Bob Payne and George Dimwitty, who just spoke earlier, right before this session. And so they introduced me to a great group of folks, and I got to meet the Agile community here in DC through that, being a chair or a co-organizer with Agile DC. So all that to say is all these things have shaped me and who I am, how I represent myself, and the work that I'm trying to do with the groups, with the clients we work with today. So my question to you, and maybe we can do this through chat or Mentee, but is what Agile stage or show are you watching? So what are you paying attention to What areas, what books are you reading? What certification bodies? I hear a lot about Scale Agile Framework. I know they're the dominant from a market share perspective and certifications. But does anybody want to, rather through chat, provide some insight on, I say the Agile stage, but where are you pulling your Agile knowledge from?
So I'll jump in just to get started while I wait on others to add their content in the chat. But for me personally, I'm getting it from either taking some courses or attending conferences like these and reading books, doing some online, lessons as well. And of course, working on it and seeing how the teams respond to different things. Anyone else want to be in the chat or express where they're doing their Agile today in chat?
Yeah, it could be safe. It could be less. Could be scrum.org, Scrum at Scale. Yeah, just rather through certifications or even professional coaching.
Yeah. So I have a couple of people here. There's Nicole who says, I'm getting from my Agile community. Awesome. I have Drew who says, podcast Agiles for Humans, Agile Toolkit.
All right. Yeah, Bob Payne is actually the father, the founder of Agile Toolkit. So very cool.
We also have another person saying, experiencing it every day at work, safe model.
Okay. Yeah. And so all sources of truth, all different. And so understanding, we're going to talk a little bit more about not only where are you pulling it from, but then understanding where they're pulling their information from as part of the lineage piece. So we'll dive into that a little bit more as we move forward here. But thank you everyone for sharing. So my flip to this is, instead of, switching back, what you looking for the stage and for the information to be presented, what if you are the show? What if you're Agile of the future, rather of a knowledge source, or just taking a different shift to it? Because I think when I got into the Agile community, not knowing I was in it, and then when I finally realized I was into the more formal, certifications and Agile conferences outside of the Silicon Valley before it became a thing, that I didn't know where to go. And obviously there's a lot more resources now. But what I realized as I progressed in my journey is, wow, does the whole, not only the community, but every individual in the community has something to offer. Because going back to your story, or the story I shared about me, the books you're reading, the conferences you've gone to, where you grew up, the values you hold, like everyone has their own, I'm going to say their own flavor of Agile, because that's probably not the right way to say it, but everyone has their own experience with Agile, and they've had their own success stories and failures, but really like your own success stories of how you've made Agile work for yourself or within your groups. And so what I want to do is first, 20-year anniversary, celebrate the fact of where you're at, what you've done. And I don't know you guys, I know some of you, but I don't know all of your stories for sure. But there's a sense of gratitude and appreciation that you just sort of sit with and have for a second. But then the other piece is I challenge you, or I give you the baton of confidence to say, like, you have something to share. In whatever world or wherever you came from, like you have something to contribute to the community. And I if I can help foster that, I would, outside of this conference, I'd be happy to. If you're looking to talk at a conference and never have before, and I know that sounds cringeworthy for most introverts, but find a way in which to share your story with the community is a huge piece, because it's all, as you think about the last 20 years of Agile, we've all contributed to this learning lineage of the Agile, in both the mindset, the people, the process, and the technology. So how do we keep pushing forward? All right, and we talked about this a little bit. I had a mentee poll here, so we're going to go back to mentee real quick. Let me do a quick shift. Got ahead of myself a little bit. My magic buttons aren't working. Get out of this. All right, so once you're on Mentee, where do you resource your Agile knowledge from today? And I know you guys, some of you put this in text. If you don't mind, we'll play around with this a little bit just to watch it show up. Trying to make it a conversation, but also trying to leverage our virtual tools here that we have access to. It's 50, 29, 56, 5. Agile meetup. I think we heard conferences. Esther Derby is one of my favorites. If you've never, if you're a fan of hers, she is super gracious, and if you reach out to her, she will respond. She also does mentoring too. Lean, behavior driven. Any UI UX folks on the line or product folks? Sounds like someone works at a cool company where they actually have a AI lab, Agile AI lab, certifications, other colleagues. Conferences is getting larger. Brain brew. Is that like alcohol and brainstorming put together? I like it. All right. Other coaches. Yeah, I've actually been invited to a couple sessions, and they exist. So if you don't have a sort of a squad or a crew that you can resource, or you're looking to diversify some of the thoughts, reach out to the community here on the conference, and I'm sure you'll find a group. One to let you in. Perfect. All right, let me see if I can shift back to my presentation. Thank you everyone for participating. That actually works smooth. All right, key point is there's a ton of places, and a lot of what I saw there was fairly Agile centric, and Dare to Lead work is something I've been pursuing. It's not Agile, but it's all about leadership. It talks about growth mindset. It talks about how do you show up. So where you find your knowledge from, it will influence how you shape not only who you are, but also how you interact with your clients. And I'm going to use the word, and how you implement, and that's not the right word, but how you bring Agile into an organization. And so what I've realized is these lenses or perspectives that you're getting from these certifications, these meetups, these conferences, they help bring me focus, especially like I've been on this leadership focus, aka Dare to Lead. But they also create some blindness, because you're so focused on these things, and you could argue whatever it is. This isn't here to be a certification war or what framework is the best. But if you're focused on one and that is your truth, your source of truth, then you're missing out. The good thing is you have sharp focus and you're becoming an expert in that particular methodology or framework, but you're also creating blindness to the other things that may be available or coming about, and especially in our industry where everything is evolving. So what I would say to this group is, as you build your lineage, as you create your loyalties to rather practices, frameworks, processes, I would just say is every once in a while do a gut check and say, am I getting too committed or too loyal to something? And is there other new things coming around? Sort of, as I say, take your head up from the work, look around, and find out what other influences or influencers are coming about in your area or community. Perspectives are an awesome thing. but as we know from a personal perspective, they can also be dangerous. All right, so building your lineage moving forward, and I was sort of hinting at this, is how do you continue to shape your views, your perspectives, and hone your knowledge towards where you want to go. And I forget who said this, so I apologize for not referencing it, but the old statement of "let me look at the world through your lens" is impossible. And the reason why it's impossible is because the lens that you look through is glued to your head. And I've been watching all this Gorilla Glue comments in the news right now. That lens is literally glued to your head, right? It's based on where you grew up, your values, your cultural beliefs, gender, experiences, everything. So you're unable as a human being to pull off that lens completely. You can try to look through somebody else's view or perspective or lens, but unfortunately, you're going to be looking through your lens and then putting their lens on top of it, if that makes sense. So it's just something to be conscious of. So with that, shaping your lineage, also shaping your perspectives moving forward, how do you build? You need to have, what is your purpose? What type of work are you drawn to? So setting your intentions around that is really, really important. And you may be on a mission right now to be a CEC or an SBCT or a professional coach, which is a great place to be, and it has an end, right? There's a certification or an end of that process, and then of course you'll continue to evolve after that. And those are by no means, those are good accomplishments to have. But also looking at it from a perspective of how do you personally need to evolve or want to, not need to, excuse me, that's a judgmental statement, but how do you want to evolve yourself, your skill sets? Where do you find gaps in your knowledge or your ability to drive change within an organization? Whether it's, and this is going back a little bit to, you want to be a T, how do you be really good at something, know enough about the other things? But what you want to find out is what, with your purpose and intention, what is that thing that you're rather really good at, naturally or otherwise, that you really want to hone in on. Set your intention for it. And then once you understand what that is, and let me give you a little more tactical, right? Is I want to be really good at product. I want to evolve product. I want to build the right product for my customers. I want to understand UI, UX. I want to understand go-to-market strategy. That could be one. Another one could be, hey, I want to get into the professional coaching world, not just Agile, but I want to get into relationship coaching, personal one-on-one coaching, executive coaching. That is a shaping your coaching profession. That is your T. Some of you may be like, no, I'm good at the team level. I really want to understand team dynamics and understanding how to get the best out of people and people in collaboration when there's more than one or two or three or four people. All right, in our Scrum world, 7 plus or minus 2, right? How do I build that type of culture and dynamics? And so that could pull you into a couple of different directions of not only understanding technical practices, but then also understanding human dynamics, human psychology, and you continue to hone your skills that way. All right, so purpose and intention. Sorry, that was a little bit long-winded, but hopefully you felt where I was trying to go there. The third thing here is, instead of spending all your time trying to figure out what framework you're trying to drive or get certified in, but then start, and if that is a route you're going, and I'm sort of consciously thinking in the back of my head or subconsciously thinking, in the government space, a lot of times you need to have this certification to meet that LCAT to get onto this contract. So respectful of those needs. But also is spend some time understanding who you're being taught by. Understand where they come from, what their lineage is. That is just as, I would say, more important than what your framework is, but I'm going to put an asterisk on that based on my previous statement. So, because they will bring their perspectives and bias into your training, even if it is a standard, I'm thinking of the SAFe certifications, everyone uses the same deck to do the SAFe training, but they're going to bring their own experiences and their own emphasis on certain material versus others. So who you're being trained by is really, really, really important. And doing a little bit of research. So, and the last one here is just a sort of a nod of, like, I understand, not everyone gets to go follow their passion 100%, right? We all have to make a living, and sometimes our living does not necessarily always align exactly to what we have passion for. My passion is people. Agile just happens to be my facilitator to have access to people that want to learn new things, and it's a really nice fit. But when you're meeting the needs of your role while following a passion, the way we look at it from a client solutions perspective is, if you need something to do your job, if you need to learn a tool, Jira, Rally, version 1, Tableau, like all of a sudden the client says, hey, I need you to know how to work this, then you go do it, right? You do whatever you do, you do whatever you need to do the job. And the second, sort of thought around your learning progression is, what can you do within the confines of your job or your current client assignment that you can add extra value to that particular engagement? So it gives you an opportunity to evolve, but then you're also offering a value add to your client or to your customer. And then the last one is to understand, where are you going with your career? Like I said, what is your T, or where are you trying to pursue your sort of your personal or professional goals? And in my world, my personal and professional goals have intertwined. I don't go to a training unless it shapes me as a leader, a father, a spouse, and then a coach. So if it doesn't give me something in all 4 of those quadrants, then I don't think it's necessarily the right thing for me. I'm going to say once again, unless there's something I'm like, hey, I need to learn this. I think one of the things on my list is the leadership circle. And you can argue that it'll help me in those 4 quadrants, but really it's learning to use a tool and how to administrate it. So there are those moments where you are trying to learn a tactical practice that helps shape who you are and how you're showing up. All right. So whole point of this slide is, one, giving a little bit of tactical approach, but also is you have control of your learning lineage moving forward. You do not have the ability to change the past, obvious statement, right? But you do have with a couple of these things in line, if you understand your intention, you set it, and then pursuing it moving forward with that same intensity that you do your job and your work. All right. So stealing a little bit from, Marcia brought this up earlier, her and Ahmed and Lisa and Michael Spade created this a while back. They're sort of looking at the core competencies of an Agile coach as the Agile coaching profession was becoming a thing. And so this is another way, just filling in this diagram. And I think Lisa Atkins has a example, if you just Google image search, where you fill in each one of these. And you sort of say, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, or where am I most solid? And you just sort of shade in, and it's just a sort of an abstract, but you're just shading in, do you have good teaching skills? Do you have good mentoring skills, coaching skills, facilitating skills? Are you technical mastery, business mastery, or transformation mastery? Like, where is your key area? And the goal is not to have all of this shaded in, but at least to set a baseline for where you're currently at. And then where do you want to concentrate? So it's just a tool to say, where do you have passion for? And then where, what is your intention moving forward? If Agile coaching is the realm that you're trying to explore. So this model can be used for really your own baseline assessment for where you're at and then where you want to go. All right. So we're going to go to Mentee one more time. I know we're running tight on time, but what I'd like to do is, what lenses do you possess and see the world through? So let me do a quick switch. And of course, it's not working. So let me switch over. So what lenses do you possess and see the world through? And so thinking about books, training, certifications, life stories, educational history, and what I always hated as a new employee at a company, now that I own my own company, I don't get to do that anymore, but is as soon as you got hired, they forgot about your resume and they just worried about what can you do the job that you currently have been signed up for. And what I want you to do is explore a little bit is what have you done in the past that you are able to leverage in your current role as an Agile coach, a Scrum Master, or something in the Agile world?
Hey, Darren,
Yeah.
if you don't mind interrupting me, just a time check. It's 2:58. We have close to 2 minutes remaining.
Yep. Almost done, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool.
All right. Spark Dynamics, business experience, mother, teammate, friend, mentor, and servant leader. I don't know if there is any more servant leader than a mother. And so this is where I would challenge this group, and I would say anybody, is to sort of figure out what are your lenses, and you know, how do they help you in doing the work that you do today? Where are there trainings out there that can help shape your current approach and impact on how you show up? So said conscious of time. I'm gonna go back to wife calling. Awesome. So when I hear a better world, what I've just challenged the team is to what does that look like? So your current lenses are, you know, how do you show up? Both how do you perceive the world, but also who do you see in the mirror as yourself as a leader? And so I know we're a little bit late on time, so I apologize for my timing being slightly off, but people, process, technology, and process is another model to sort of use as a reflective tool of what skills do you have, what skills does your organization need, and how are you providing it to them. And then you can take that same model, and the text change in the top left hand corner, you can't really tell, but is based on the team that you're working with, aka a group of coaches or coaches, change management, scrum masters, product owners. Like, what do you as a collective group have strengths in the people, product, technology, and process realms? And the big thing is where to go from here, understanding where you want to be and where you're at and navigating that gap across. There's a wealth of knowledge out there, a wealth of people willing to help. And what I would just say is once you set your intentions, that gap shrinks and shrinks and shrinks as you're able to resource others. These are our core values. We spent some time creating these at Pliant Solutions. And I'll stop here and just say a little Brene Brown quote: if we are brave enough, often enough, we will fail. Daring is not saying I'm willing to risk failure. Daring is saying I know I will eventually fail and I'm still all in. I've never met a brave person who hasn't known disappointment, failure, and even heartbreak. So the journey is not always smooth, but with the right intentions, it is worth it. And the world needs you, as you guys know. So thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and appreciate you spending some time with me.
Thanks so much, Darren. We appreciate your talk. It was very inspiring. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and we will see you around for the rest of the conference.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Dan.